What is up, everyone? I'm Rusty, your local laboratory maniac. This is Landman EDH, where we specialize in EDH deck building and looking at cool commander cards. Now, before we start, I just want to say thank you for everyone's support. I actually reached 100 subscribers. It's only been about 3 weeks. I'm like brand new to this, so I appreciate the support from everybody. Now, getting into this video's topic, I was going to move away from the Final Fantasy because I already did 2 videos on it. But every time I open my Facebook app, there is a new cool spoiler that either fits perfectly in a deck I'm already kind of designing, or it gives me new ideas for a new design altogether. And that's what this video is. I got 3 decks. Normally I have 5, but the video I actually filmed was over an hour long, and I didn't think anyone wanted to watch me ramble about magic cards for over an hour. Uh, do people like long videos? If you do, let me know. But anyway, let's get into the video. We got Barret here, we got Professor Hojo, and we got Aldbert. So for this first deck, we actually have a secret commander deck. Our actual commander is going to be Barret, Avalanche Leader. Let's go ahead and read him. He's 2 generic, Gruul colors, legendary creature, human rebel, reach. Whenever an equipment you control enters, create a 2/2 red rebel creature token. And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to target rebel you control, and it's a 4/4. So it's doing a couple things. It's making tokens and then cheating the cost of equipments if we attach them to our tokens. But before we get into who the secret commander is, and you might already know from the thumbnail, let's get into a lore tidbit about Barret. I always like knowing a little bit about the characters I'm playing. So he's actually a faction leader of a militant group called Avalanche. He is filled with a burning hatred for Shinra, a company he claims is destroying the planet. His right arm has been modified into a firearm, allowing him to attack his enemies at long range, which obviously fits the theme of the card. The flavor's pretty good. Gruul's all about destroying the unnatural. You see that on Ravnica with the Gruul Guild. And then you also got his arm literally being equipped to him. So it's perfect. And he inspires people to rebel. I'm always a supporter of that. Now, our secret commander is Essence of the Wild. And I'm going to try not to say Essence Warden because that's the first Essence magic card that comes to mind. So, Essence of the Wild is 3 generic, 3 green creature avatar. Creatures you control enter the battlefield with as a copy of Essence of the Wild, and he's a 6/6. Now, this can be a great ability, a very powerful ability, but it can also be a very dangerous ability. You got to really know how to play it. Of course, you're going to probably want your commander out first and then play Essence of the Wild. And then any tokens your commander will make or that you would make in other means will actually become in as 6/6s that are copies of Essence of the Wild. This ability you don't really see ever, so it's unique and it's very fun to build around. Like I said, it's a double-edged sword, so you have to know how to use it. Now, if you saw Barret, it might remind you of another Gruul commander that came out during Kamigawa. It literally does almost the same things, has all the same stats except for it makes 2/2 spirits. It also works with auras, not just equipments. And then each modified creature gets a +1/+1 counter at the end of your turn. Now, you could go with this guy. I would say this guy's a little more powerful. The one thing that Barret does that this one doesn't is it cheats equip cost to rebels. Now, if you have Essence of the Wild out, you won't have any rebels, so you got to keep that in mind. So you got to pick and choose which one you think is better. I think Barret's better. I actually like his character. I like his lore a little better. Now, what are we doing with this deck? So there's 3 artifact abilities, or should I say equipment abilities, that make tokens when they come into play. You got Living Weapon, you got 4 Mirrodin, and you got Job Select. Here's 2 examples of Living Weapon. So you got Flare Husk. It's a 1 generic artifact equipment. It has Living Weapon, and equipped creature gets +1/+1, and it costs 2. So Living Weapon says whenever this equipment enters the battlefield, create a 0/0 black germ creature token, then attach this to it. So the germ would die if it's not attached. But let's say you have your Essence of the Wild out and you play this, you will get a 6/6 Essence of the Wild, not a 0/0 Germ. Same thing with Batterscalds. 5 generic, it's an artifact equipment, living weapon. The equipped creature gets +4/+4 and has vigilance and lifelink. And then you can pay 3 to return it to your hand, and it's equipped 5. You'll notice all these have high equip costs usually, so keep that in mind. That's another reason why Barret's a little better in my opinions. You can cheat that equip cost. At the very least, you equipped it to your commander. Then you got Dragonwing Glider. It's 3 generic, 2 red. Artifact equipment as 4 Mirrodin, so it makes a 2/2 red rebel, which fits your theme perfectly. And then equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has flying and haste, and then it costs 5. Again, a huge equip cost. However, it comes in equipped to a creature. Hopefully, that'll be a 6/6 uh, Essence of the Wild. And then you got Samurai Katana. It's 2 generic, 1 red. Equipment, artifact, job select. So it actually makes a 1/1 colorless hero when it comes into play and you attach this to it. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, has trample and haste, and is a samurai in addition to its other types. Equip 5. So that fits pretty good because it even is a Final Fantasy card. So that's essentially the goal of the deck, is to cheat out a bunch of Essence of the Wilds. Of course, with a Secret Commander, keep in mind you do need creature tokens because it's 1 out of 99 cards you have to get. Creature tutors, I should say, creature tutors. Now, Rebel is obviously a sub theme in this. It's not huge because in Gruul, there's actually only like 9 playable rebels, I think. And here's 2 examples. Both these have to do with equipment, so they fit perfectly. You got Rook, Hexgull, Nabbit. It's 2 generic, 1 red, legendary creature, Goblin Rebel, has trample and haste. And when an equipped creature you control other than Rook attacks or dies, you may attach all equipment, attach that creature to Rook, and he's a 2/2. So he also cheats equipment cost, which is very beneficial for you. Like I said, all these costs are pretty high. And then you got Furion, Wild Rose Warrior. It's 2 generic, 1 red. Equipped creatures you control have haste. And whenever a non-token equipment you control enters, create a token that's a copy of it, except for it has this equipment's equipped abilities cost 2 less to activate. Sacrifice the token at the beginning of your next instep or your next upkeep. And now the reason I said instep is because usually it's at the beginning of the next instep. Beginning of the next upkeep is very strange wording. I don't know why you would want to do that. Uh, Comment down below if you know why, but it is a 3/3. Now this will hopefully make a like living weapon equipment or something, so you even make more tokens as they come in. Like I said, keep in mind, Essence of the Wild, if it's already in play, then these come in as copies of Essence of the Wild. So you want to play these first. And let's say someone board wipes or something like that, you just have a bunch of equipments out. There's actually a few cards where they bring out a bunch of tokens and then automatically will equip your equipments to those tokens, like Gold Warden's Gambit and Reckless Crew. Warden's Gambit is 6 generic, 2 red, sorcery, affinity, 4 equipment, and then create 5 2/2 red rebel creature tokens. They gain haste until the end of turn. And then for each of those tokens, you can attach an equipment to it. And then you got Reckless Crew, which is probably one of my favorites. It's 3 generic, 1 red. Create X 2/1 red dwarf berserker creature tokens, where X is the number of vehicles you control plus the number of equipments you control. For each of those tokens, you may attach an equipment you control to it. So these are perfect after a board wipe, for example. Gold Warden's Gambit even makes Rebels, which is just on theme. And now 2 cards I really like in there because basically you want to make as many Essence of the Wild as possible. And so there are some equipments, and there's actually one ore I really like that does that. So you got Scepter of Celebration. It's 2 generic, 1 green. Artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has trample. And then whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a plate, you create that many 1/1 green and white civilian creature tokens. It's equip 3. So obviously you equip this to Essence of the Wild. It'll be an 8/6. You swing in, let's say, and there's no blocks or anything like that. Then you make 8 copies of Essence of the Wild. And then Elemental Mastery. I know it's technically an aura. However, it's still a fun card to play in this because you can tap your Essence of the Wild or any creature to make X 1/1 red elemental creature tokens with haste, where X is the creature's power, and then you exile them at the beginning of the next end step. So you tap your Essence of the Wild, for example, you make 6 1/1s, but actually you make 6 6 6s. They don't have haste, and they don't do exile at the beginning of your next end step. But if your opponent is swinging into you with a bunch of creatures, making a wall of 6 6s is just an amazing value. So that's essentially the deck. You play your commander, which will make tokens and works with equipment. You play living weapon, job select, and 4 mirrored cards. You really want to get Essence of the Wild, so make sure you get your creature tutors. There's a bunch out there, just Google them. And then you go ham with all the tokens and try to overwhelm your opponent with it. Now, let's go ahead and jump into the next one. So for this next one, we got Aldbert, Warrior of Darkness. And now I don't know why, but I really love this design. It's a very unique design for a card. Let's go ahead and read it. It's one generic in Orzhov colors, legendary creature Spirit Warrior. When you cast a white spell, put a +1/+1 counter on each legendary you control. They gain vigilance until end of turn. And then it says whenever you cast a black spell, put a +1/+1 counter on each legendary you control. They gain menace until the end of the turn, and it's a 2/2. Now this is doing a bunch of cool things. It is wanting you to play multicolor in Orzhov, which isn't that supported. I have a few cards that will support it, but it's not very supported, so that's amazing. And then it wants you to boost with counters and have legendary cards that get boosted. And I was actually thinking about a deck that has this almost exact theme, but then they released this and I was like, "Oh man, it's perfect." So before we talk about it, let's get into the lore. Now, this guy, he's an angry, brash, and cynical guy. He's quick to decry the notions of heroes and bemoan his role in dooming his world to the flood of light. He acts as a foil to the warrior of light and their companions' consistent optimism. He's good at heart and he treasures his companions dearly, expressing anger and frustration at being forced to play the villain during his time on the Source to save his world. The Source is the name of his world. Now, he's I guess basically was forced into being a villain, doing a bad thing to save his world. I feel like we've all been kind of put in a similar spot where we have to do the mean thing in order to get the job done. And that's seen in his card. The colors are perfect. He has duty, but ambition and power. Those are Orzhov colors to the extreme. And then he boosts his friends and everything in between. So it's really good. Now, this command actually reminded me of cards I used to see in Eventide when I started playing. Like for example, you got Night Sky Mimic. It's a one generic, one hybrid. It's either white or black. It's a creature shapeshifter, and when you play a spell that's both white and black, it becomes a 4/4 and gains flying until end of turn, and it's a 2/1. So if you play your commander while this is out, it would become a 4/4 flyer. For 2 mana, that's pretty good. That's nothing groundbreaking in commander nowadays, but back then commander wasn't really that much of a thing. So then another card from Eventide that I think goes amazing in this deck. I wish they made more cards like this. It's Deathbringer Liege. It's 2 generic, 3 Orzhov hybrid mana. So you can pay either white or black. It's a creature horror. Other white creatures get +1/+1. And then other black creatures you control get +1/+1. So obviously for your multicolored, they're getting +2/+2. And then whenever you cast a white spell, you may tap target creature. Then whenever you cast a black spell, you may destroy target creature if it's tapped, and it's a 3/4. Now, this hybrid mana was actually designed to kind of so you can play it in like a mono white deck. You can still play this because you can pay the 3 white, but in multicolored, it's just perfect. Now, like I said, I actually had a deck I was thinking about where I basically had low to the ground, like low mana, costing legendary Orzhov colored creatures. And there's actually a lot. Here's 2 examples. And it also had a power 2 or less kind of theme to it. And I'll show you what I mean. So you got Jarina here, Dauntless General. It's Orzhov colors. Legendary creature, human soldier. When it enters the battlefield, exile target player's graveyard, which is amazing. And then you can sack it. Humans you control get hexproof and indestructible into turn, which is also amazing. It's a 2/2. And you'll notice with a lot of these small creatures, their abilities are just really good utility abilities that will be good in any deck. But if you put them all together, they just stack and it's really nice. So the power two or less sub theme in here, you can actually take it or leave it. You don't have to. It does work because your commander only boosts them once they're on the field, and then when you cast something, that'll boost them. That'll give them 2+1/+1 counters. So you could still use it. And for example, you got Enduring Innocence and Revelark. Now, Enduring Innocence is a 1 generic 2 white enchantment creature, Sheep Glimmer, as lifelink. And when one or more creatures with power 2 or less enter, draw a card. This only triggers once each turn. And then when this dies, it comes back as only an enchantment. It's not a creature, and it's a 2/1. So, let's say you have Lotho, you cast Lotho, commander ability triggers, then Lotho enters as a 2/1. You do get to draw a card, and then when you play something else that's 2 or less, you get to draw again, but Lotho will then be boosted if you play something else that has both white and black. Then you got Revelark here. It's a 4 generic, 1 white creature elemental as flying. When it leaves play, return up to 2 target creature cards with power 2 or less from your graveyard to play. And it has an evoke cost. Evoke means you can cast it for this cost, but if you do, automatically sacrifice it when it comes into play. So basically, in the graveyard, the power of your creatures, it will still be 2. So you can bring them back with this. Now, in terms of other legendary themes, there's plenty in Orzhov. You got Arvad the Cursed here. It's 3 generic Orzhov colors, legendary creature, Vampire Knight as Death Touch lifelink. And then it also says other legendary creatures you control get +2/+2, and it's a 3/3. And then you got Rada Drabic of Orborg here. It's a 2 generic Orzhov colors, legendary creature, zombie wizard as Vigilance, Ward 2. Other zombies you control have Vigilance, and when a legendary creature you control dies, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except for it's not legendary and it's a 2/2 black zombie in addition to its other types, and it's a 3/3. So you're doing a lot of the legendary themed stuff. If a legend dies, you get a copy of it. And you can boost if you have Arvid out, the power 2 or less theme won't really work. So you got to keep that in mind. However, you can make this deck focus on whatever you want. There's so many avenues you can actually go. And like I said, multicolor is definitely a theme. And there's a few Orzhov colored cards that care about it. Usually it's more in like the Naya colors. But you got Tome of the Guild Pack. It's a 5 generic artifact. When you cast a multicolored spell, draw the card. And then it can tap for mana. It's kind of pricey, but it taps for mana and draws you cards, so you can't really go wrong. Then you got Hero Precinct 1. It's a 1 generic, 1 white creature, human warrior. When you cast a multicolored spell, you make a 1/1 human white creature token, and it's a 2/2. So you can start spamming out tokens as you're casting, because you're going to be casting a lot of small, low to the ground legendaries in the deck I have down below. But you can not put Hero Precinct 1 in your deck and focus on other themes. That's totally cool. This commander is just so great how you can go in different directions. And since you are doing the counter stuff and the legendary stuff, there are cards, however which way you take this, that will benefit from that. So you got Damning Verdict. It's a 3 generic 2 white sorcery. Destroy all creatures with no counters on them. So all your legendary creatures should be safe. And hopefully this will just be a one-sided board wipe. And then you got Urza's Ruinous Blast. It's 4 generic 1 white legendary sorcery, meaning you can only cast it if you have a legendary creature or planeswalker. You exile all non-land permanents that aren't legendary. So if you pump your deck full of legendaries, play this, bang bada boom, one-sided board wipe, and this actually kills more than creatures. It's non-land permanents that aren't legendary. And of course, your opponent probably will have their commander. That's a legendary card. Your opponent will be playing legendary stuff. So it's not completely one-sided, but it can wreck the right opponent. And of course, I haven't really talked too much about this, but protecting your stuff obviously is important. over the last 10 years, I see removal getting better and better, and then protection spells getting better and better. Almost reminds me of in the animal kingdom, defense strategies versus predator strategies, and they have to evolve and keep evolving until one just is overwhelming. I think right now, probably protection is the most overwhelming. It beats removal a lot. So you got Flare, Fortitude, and Clever Concealment. Clever Concealment's actually coming in one of the structure decks, the Commander structure decks, if you want to buy them. So it's Flare Fortitude. It's 2 generic, 2 white instant. You may sacrifice a non-token white creature rather than pay this cost, which in this deck is almost every creature. And then it says, until end of turn, your life total can't change, and permanents you control have hexproof and indestructible. Obviously, that won't affect mass exile effects and bounce effects, but clever concealment will protect you from those. That's why I'm saying, like, protection's getting crazy. Like, back in the day, you give a one thing hexproof, and that was good enough. Now you're getting literally everything hexproof, everything indestructible, your life total can't change, and you can cast it for free by sacking something. That is insane. The power creep on that. But anyway, Clever Concealment is 2 generic, 2 white, instant as Convoke, meaning you can tap creatures to reduce its cost, and then tap any number of non-land permanents you control. They phase out. So sorry, not tap. You target that each non-land permanent you control, however many you want. So you can only do half your board if that's what you want. If you want to keep your enchantments out and they're border wiping creatures, you can do it. And you can cast this basically for free if you have 4 creatures, as long as 2 of them are white, which all of ours probably will be white. And then some more this deck actually does recursion pretty well. It's in white and black, which do the best recursion. So, there's a lot of legendary, historic recursion. There's a lot of power 2 or less recursion. So, you just pick your poison. You got Teshar, Ancestor's Apostle. It's a 3 generic, 1 white legendary creature, bird cleric, as flying. And when you cast a historic spell, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, and it is a 2/2, which fits our 2/2 theme, of course. And then you got Primeval's Glorious Rebirth. It's a 5 generic, Orzhov colors, legendary sorcery. Return all legendary permanent cards from your graveyard to your battlefield. So it'll also bring back your artifacts. It'll bring back your enchantments if you want to put them in. I'm just saying Whip of Erebos is a legendary card. You can go ahead and throw that in here. Life gain, is amazing. So one good thing about a deck like this is it lets you play cards you normally wouldn't play. Your commander's doing the multicolored thing in Orzhov, very unusual. And then you got legendary tribal, you got power 2 less. You can just go anyway, and it lets you play cards you probably have never seen before. For example, one card I never saw before was Righteous War. It's a 1 generic Orzhov colors enchantment. All white creatures you control gain protection from black, and all black creatures you control gain protection from white. In this deck, it's going to be great because all your creatures are going to be white and black, hopefully, if you're building it that way. And so you have protection from the best creature removal from some of the most popular colors, so you can block or not be blocked. And then you got Re-Ride at Dawn. It's 2 generic, 1 white enchantment. Legendary creature spells you cast have Convoke. And then whenever your commander attacks, you get a 1/1 red mercenary creature token with the tap ability. Target creature you control gains +1/+0 until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. So as you're casting your legendary creatures, which there will be plenty in, you can actually use the creatures on the field to cast. And just so everyone knows, it's not just generic mana. If you have an Orzhov colored creature, you can tap it for a generic or a white or a black. So it can actually help you color fix, which is pretty good in a multicolored deck. So that is this deck. I really like it. It does so many different things. You can take it in so many directions. Some people may just do legendary. Some people may do multicolored, some may do both, some may do the 2 power or less abilities. You can do it however you want. I also notice a lot of the Orzhov small creatures are also human. You can do a human tribal sub theme as well if that's what you want to do. The commander is obviously a spirit warrior. He's not a human, but still, you could do that if you wanted to. Just how deep you want to go into the rabbit hole of building this deck. Now let's go ahead and jump into the next one here. So we got Hojo here, and he's actually what made me want to make another video because he's so interesting. Okay, so you got Professor Hojo. This is called Hojo's Fun Laboratory or Laboratory, however you want to pronounce it. He's a one generic, one green, legendary creature, human scientist. The first activated ability you activate during your turn that targets a creature you control costs 2 less to activate. And then, whenever one or more creatures you control become the target of an activated ability, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. It's a 2/2. Now, when I saw this, I thought it was a very unique card. First of all, it's a mono green scientist. Very odd. The flavor's weird. Okay. Now, this is going to be coming in the equipment deck, and which is Naya color. So they really didn't have blue to use, but they could have used red. There's a lot of red scientists. And it has an activated ability theme, which I don't think we've ever seen in green. Obviously, this was meant for equipments, but they went out of their way not to say equipments. They went a different route, which included equipments, which is great for us because then we can use this ability for other things. And then, of course, that last ability isn't just when you target it; it's even when your opponent targets you will draw a card. And so obviously the card draw is good. You can activate activated abilities, a lot of them at instant speed. So on your turn you do one, on your opponent's turn you do one, and you could do hopefully 4 every round, draw 4 extra cards a round, and that's pretty good. Now, there's 2 themes to this deck. There's one, it's a tribal deck. 2, it's a land activated ability theme deck as well. Now, and then there's a +1/+1 sub theme. So, before we get into what the deck entails, let's go over Hojo. And now, Hojo, from what I could tell, is not a liked character. He's an antagonist. So, he's a major antagonist and director of a research and development. Hojo doesn't allow things like ethics to hold him back in the pursuit of knowledge. Together with his former director, they pioneered the soldier program, bathing subjects in Mako to enhance their battle performance. So, I don't know if that really works with the flavor of his card. Honestly, this is a flavor fail in my opinion. However, he is, you know, activating the abilities of his subjects to make them better, I guess. I don't know. But what I am going to connect that to is spikes. Now, spikes is a creature type, and it actually only has about, I think, 11 or 12 spikes. One of them's black, the rest are green. Now, for example, you got Spike Weaver and Spike Feeder. Spike Weaver is a 2 generic, 2 green. It's a creature, it's a spike. And then it says when it comes into play, it gets 3+1/+1 counters put on it. And then it is, you pay 2 generic, remove a +1/+1 counter from Spike Weaver, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. And then you can pay 1 generic, remove a +1/+1 counter from Spike Weaver. Creatures deal no combat damage. And then it's a 0/0. Now, this will follow every single spike pretty much. It comes into play with a certain amount of counters. You can pay 2, remove a counter from it, put it on another target creature, and then you can pay 1 generic, remove a counter to do some kind of ability. For example, Spike Feeder does all those abilities, only comes in with 2 counters on it though, and then it's remove a +1/+1 counter on them, gain 2 life. Now, if you can remember, you actually target with the Spike Feeder's ability, so the commander will trigger you to draw a card if you activate this a lot. Now, spikes were actually created or modified for the purpose of Volrath's operating theater in the stronghold on Wrath. So it kind of fits the theme of our commander, actually, where he's modifying things for weaponry. Now, some more shenanigans we can get involved with Spike Feeder, for example, or any spike really. Remember, they got that remove a +1/+1 counter to put a +1/+1 counter on another creature. And our commander will reduce the cost of that ability. Usually it's two generic. However, it's going to be free for us because unlike most cost reduction abilities, like something that reduces the cost of an activated ability, it usually will say if it will reduce it less than one, it reduces it to one instead. But this doesn't say that. So the two generic, we don't even have to pay it. So we can use Spike Feeder. Let's say we played on our turn. We have Hardened Scales or Kami of the Whispered Hopes, both of which will add an additional +1/+1 counter when we put one on. You actually start proliferating almost. So Spike Feeder, you will remove a 1/1 counter to put two +1/+1 counters on another card, hopefully another Spike. And then that ability, that will draw you a card. You wait till your opponent's next turn. You will pay 0, remove one of the counters from that Spike you just put some on. Then you put 2 on Spike Feeder. And then you draw a card. And then the next one, and it keeps going, and they keep growing and growing and growing. That's the goal. So, like I said, that's what Hardened Scales does. It's 1 green enchantment, and it puts a +1/+1 counter. If you're going to put one or more, you put that many +1. Kami the False Hope is a 2 generic, 1 green creature spirit. It does the same thing, but it also has tap at X mana of any one color, where X is Kami of or Kami of Whispered Hopes power. It's a 1/1. Almost got confused with Kami of the False Hope, which is a whole different card. But anyway, so you can actually keep moving them around between your spikes and then put them on Kami of the Whispered Hopes and then make a bunch of mana if that's what you want to do. Now, like I said, there's a sub theme, +1/+1 counters, because obviously that's what spikes are doing. And you could lean in way more into it. Obviously, deck list is down below. I didn't lead super, super, super heavy, but it is definitely a good theme in this deck because it's going to boost them, and hopefully you can end up putting them on your commander or something and swing in for game. Now, there's a lot of cards that just automatically will double the counters on something. So you got Visions of Dominance. It's 2 generic, 1 green, sorcery. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, then double the number of +1/+1 counters on it. And then it has a flashback cost, which is it's actually 8 generic and 2 green, so it's 10. So you know it's going to be reduced. It's reduced by X, where X is the greatest mana value of commander you own on the battlefield or in the command zone, which will only be 2. So it'll be 8 to flash it back for us. Then you got Invigorating Surge. It's 2 generic, 1 green, instant. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, and then double the number of +1/+1 counters. And there's a lot of cards in my deck that will do that because we just want those spikes as big as possible. This whole deck's about spikes. You never see it. You love to see it, though. Now, there are a lot of activated ability cards that will help us trigger to draw the cards. So you got Weather Seed Elf. It's a 1 green. It's an elf. And then it says tap. Target creature gains Force Walk until end of turn. It's a 1/1. So you basically can tap this to target someone to make them hard to block and to draw you a card for free because you don't have to pay any cost to activate this ability other than tapping. And then you got Ovenwald Tracker. It's also 1 green. It's a creature human shaman. You pay 1 generic, 1 green, tap it. Target creature you control fights another target creature, and it's a 1/1. So obviously, this will trigger to draw a card, and this is good removal. So there's a lot of activated abilities in green, which is crazy how there's never been a commander that focuses on that. Now, like I said, there's actually going to be a land activated ability package here. There's going to be a lot of cards that will search for any kind of land, like Sylvan Scrying, for example, or Tempt with Discovery. So keep that in mind. You can put a lot, since you're in green, into that so you can get these kind of lands. So you got Arena. This is actually not a mana producing ability, but it has it costs 3 generic, tap it, tap target creature you control and target creature of an opponent's choice he or she controls. Each of those creatures deal damage equal to its power to the other. So it's like fighting, but they get tapped and your opponent chooses which one. And then you got Witch's Clinic. It taps for a colorless, and you can pay 2 generic, tap it. Target creature you control gains lifelink until end of turn. We may be making our commander actually pretty strong with all these +1/+1 counters. So Lifelink is going to be great. You know how much I love Lifelink. Then you got Okina Temple of the Grandfathers. It's a legendary land from Kamigawa. I love the legendary lands from Kamigawa. They're always great. You can tap it for 1 green, or you can pay a green, tap it, target legendary creature gets +1/+1 until end turn. Again, that's an activated ability. We can hold this up for our opponent's turn, tap it just to draw cards. And then you got Yavimaya Hollow. It's a legendary land. You can tap it, add 1 colorless mana to your mana pool, and you can pay 1 green, tap it, regenerate target card or target creature. It can obviously help protect your commander. Your commander hopefully is going to get pretty big. So here are 2 other cards that help protect your commander. You got Plaza of Heroes. It's a land. It taps for colorless. Add 1 mana of any color. Spend this only in cast legendary spells. Add 1 mana of any color among legendary permanents you control, or you can pay 3, tap it, exile this land. Target legendary creature gains hexproof and indestructible into turn. That's amazing protection. Obviously, our commander, he reduces the first activated ability cost, so it'd only be cost 1 to activate this. Then you got Diamond City. It enters with a shield counter on it, and shield counters say if it would be dealt damage or destroyed, remove a shield counter from it instead. It taps for colorless, and then you can tap it to remove the shield counter from Diamond City onto target creature. Activate only if 2 or more creatures enter the battlefield under your control this turn. So hopefully you'll be able to activate that. There are plenty of creatures to play. And that's basically the theme of the deck. You want to play your commander. You want to activate his draw ability as much as possible. You want to play some spikes. Hopefully, you get at least 2 spikes on the field. And there are creature tutors, obviously, you can play. And then hopefully that'll let you just proliferate the counters out of control and then just utterly overwhelm your opponent with the power. And then you got your land package. Now, land package you don't need. That will make this deck kind of expensive because some of these lands can be pretty pricey. You know how lands are in EDH. Thank you so much for everyone watching. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. Are you building any of these decks? Are you building any deck in Final Fantasy? Comment down below. If you like this video, go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. They say you have to say that or you're not a real YouTuber, so I'm saying it. Go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and I'm going to see you in the next video here.